Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be planting 2 of these ScentAmazing Gardenias from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Look how perfect this plant is. Every time I've seen these ScentAmazing Gardenias, this is how they look. They're just really, really compact, dense growing, evergreen shrubs with beautiful glossy green foliage. This is a dwarf variety. It only reaches like 2.5 to 3 feet in height and 2.5 to 3 feet in width. Beautiful plant, doesn't even need to flower. I could give you 50 reasons to plant it without even mentioning the flowers, but it is a gardenia and it has the wonderfully scented white flowers on them. Blooms heavily in the spring, blooms sporadically through the summer, blooms heavily again in the fall. Really, really beautiful variety. I am super impressed every time I see this one, how dense and compact the growth habit is on it. Gardenias like to be in pretty well-drained soil. I've picked this side of my yard. I planted a Jubilation gardenia over here a few weeks ago and it's doing great. I picked this spot over here because the soil drains a little better. The other side of my yard, the clay is much heavier. And so if you do plant it in clay soils, mix some pine bark or something in, leave them elevated some for sure. This spot over here was my compost pile for years, and so the soil drains really, really well. It's actually easy digging. I'm still going to elevate it a little bit though. I'll slide this out of the container. I doubt this is root bound. Gardenias are typically, don't go too crazy in the containers. I may break this up just a little bit, but you can have a close up. Look at those beautiful white roots on it, but they're not wrapping around yet. So not too concerned about that. I'll stick it in the hole here, and I want it, like I say, I want to end up with it elevated a couple inches above the grade. So I'm putting a little bit of soil back in there. That should be fine. It's sitting up about this much above the original soil line here. And then I'll just take this soil and bring it in here and pack it down around the outside. If there's any clumps in here, I'll break those up as I go. But this is really a beautiful, beautiful plant. And again, I'll show you how this is elevated above the soil here a little bit. These are hardy in zone 7 to 10. So most people in the Southeast, this is a great choice for you. So hopefully you can see I've left it up here about an inch, inch and a half above the original grade. That should allow it to drain well. I'm going to go ahead and put this second one in the ground the exact same way. Pull them out, break these roots up a little bit if they need it. Like I say, these aren't root bound at all. Set them in there, make sure it's slightly above the grade. This one is perfect. And I'll pull my soil in here. Normally I do this with a shovel, but this soil's so loose. Again, this is kind of key to these gardenias, is well-drained soil. And so sitting up like this is absolutely ideal. Gardenias are pretty pest resistant, disease resistant. Like I say, they don't like wet feet. If you tuck them up in a corner that doesn't get any air movement at all, they can be susceptible to whiteflies, so keep that in mind. If they get a little bit of air movement on them, usually that isn't that big of a deal. They're completely and totally, almost deer-proof. I've never heard of anybody telling me that deer ate their gardenias. Fragrant plants tend to be in that group. I'm really impressed by this plant just because of its year-round interest. You know, it's going to be just this perfect evergreen ball, you know, in the winter time, and then it's going to put on this big fragrant floral show in the spring and in the fall. And like I say, some residual flowers even during the summer. There's actually flower buds on them now, and it's toward the end of July when I'm shooting this video. So I went and raked up a little bit of pine straw from some pine trees I have in my yard and put a light coat around them. One tip I'm going to give you on gardenias is don't over mulch them. We definitely want to mulch. We want to keep the ground covered because that'll regulate the moisture and the heat and help us prevent some weeds, but don't over mulch. Don't put like 4 inches of hardwood mulch around them or something like that. That'll end up keeping them way too wet. I put these 2 next to the sunshine ligustrum, and that gold foliage and that shiny dark green foliage just look really, really amazing together. If these need pruning, and they're just not going to need a whole lot of pruning ever, they grow in this really tight, compact habit like this without doing much to them. They can be pruned after they flower in the spring. I would fertilize them in the late winter with something for acid-loving plants. An azalea, camellia, rhododendron fertilizer will be perfect. Gardenias are definitely acid-loving plants. Thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates.